Hey everyone, welcome to episode 29 of the Everday Bow Hunter podcast. We had a little bit of a hiatus since our last podcast. Had a lot going on. One, hunting. Two, sickness. We were down with the sickness, both of us at different times.
Yeah.
And also life got in the way. I had to travel for work. So we'll get into all that. But we're going to talk about our last couple of weeks of hunting, what we've experienced, and talk about the deer we've seen and what we're actually seeing on the ground right now, hunting in the mountains of north central Pennsylvania. And Dan just put his thumb down. But we had a really, really cool week one, day one hunting experience. And it's more something personal for us. But we have a cousin, my dad's first cousin. He's 69 years old. And he had been on a drought of epic proportions. He had not,
to say the least.
He had shot plenty of deer with rifle.
Yeah.
But he had been on an archery drought of, you said 51 years.
51 years.
51 years without an archery deer. I didn't say buck, I said deer.
Not a doe, not a...
Nothing. Not a freaking button buck, not nothing.
So, a 51-year drought at age 69. We set him up where my camera is. I said, why don't you go hunt my camera? And he went up there. And so we have, here's how this kind of plays out, because we have this little call.
If you haven't listened to the podcast before, the place where Dan had his camera was a hot spot for, the 10-point on there, the 8-point.
2 8-points, a 7-point. And
you had a coyote, turkey, bear.
Yep.
This camera was getting everything. This trail system is coming into there. It's getting everything. And for Dan to say, hey, man.
Yeah. So I get out of the woods early. It was my night to do dinner. So I get back. I'm like, I got to start prepping dinner. You know, it gets dark late. So, I mean, if I wouldn't have done that, we wouldn't have been eating until almost 9 o'clock at night. So make a long story short, we have a little call, and we learned this from T-Bone and Waddell. Whenever you get a kill, we say Christmas has just been canceled.
On the radio.
On the radio. So not everybody on the broadcast knows what we're talking about. But at any rate, I get back to camp. I get everything done, prepped up. Food's cooking, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, oh, you know what? I got to turn my radio on. It's the 11th hour. It's dark time. Almost dark time. So I go out on the front porch, I crack a beer, turn the radio on, and I hear like a little static going. And I said, is somebody there? Next thing you know, I hear, Christmas is coming early. He got the call sign wrong. and that's okay. And I said, wait a minute. Is this you, Gray Ghost? That's his his handle. And he says, yeah, I got one hit. And I was like, oh my gosh, golly. So I said, do you need help? He says, hey buddy, I can always use help. So I ran to our shed, I grabbed the deer cart, and I ran up the mountain and got up to him, met him in the woods. They had drug it maybe 75 yards at that point. He got a nice sized doe. He was smiling ear to ear. So I get to this one opening, I can look over and I see his pack and his tree seat where he was sitting, his millennium seat. And I look up into the opening of where the deer come through, and I see a lit knock sticking in a tree. So he shot that doe, went through the doe, and the arrow stuck right into the tree. And he never knew it. I mean, he knew that he got the deer, obviously, but we drug it out to the main path, got it on the deer cart, got it down to camp, skinned it out, quartered it up, and let's just say the party commenced. It was a party of epic proportions. This man, first archery kill at 69. Congratulations, Mark. It was an amazing night. So whenever somebody gets a kill, we have a headband that says Rambo. And whoever kills has to don the Rambo headband all night long. And the chants were going, Rambo, Rambo. We
were screaming Rambo, and the amount of shots that were drank that night were bad enough that people had 2-day hangovers.
Yeah, I felt that. That was Saturday night. I was still hungover Tuesday morning.
It is such a celebration because how long he went, and I came I came through the door with my boy Trevor. We were out quite a distance away. We get back to camp and walk through the door because I see the lights out back, which always mean
we got one hanging.
We got one hanging on the pole, on the
deer pole.
Pole. And I come through the door and I automatically, because my dad had gone to a spot that we had scouted out and it had real heavy doe activity in the evening. Yeah. And I thought, oh, he nailed one. And I come through the door and he grabs me and he said, Mark got one. And I just was flipping out.
Yeah, you were.
I was flipping out. Yeah. Oh my God. It's it's a personal thing for us, you know, but it's an incredible experience for us and him to be there with him for that. I mean, he was hunting off the ground. Yeah. He had a little blind in front of him.
Yep.
And he said the doe basically walked right by him, like 4 yards beside him. And I think he said he shot it like 10 yards. 8 yards. Yeah. Wow. In front of him. Yep. And that's why that crossbow arrow
went through that deer into the tree.
Yeah.
When I got up to them, up in the opening there, and he latched onto me and the hugging and everything, I was welling up, man, because like he said, I know what that moment meant.
Yes.
Like it was a lot of years coming. I've seen him bordering on dejected over the years, like coming back.
He had missed deer, you know. He had wounded him and not recovered. You know, it's just a bunch of bad luck.
And it's not that he's a bad hunter; he's a great hunter. Like I said, he's has never really happened. Yeah.
Just his luck just wasn't there. He went out, I don't know how many times hunting with us and came back and didn't see a single thing.
Yep.
You know, or if he did, it was way off in the distance or something. So
what a great experience!
Hey, congratulations to you, Mark. That was fantastic. And
enjoyed every minute of that.
Yeah, that was that evening, and then to have my boy there for it too.
Yeah, Trevor had a great time.
They had a blast. He was smoked by the end of that night.
Yeah,
I couldn't even take it anymore. I went to bed, like I don't know, 11:30, 12 o'clock. Whatever it was.
I crawled in bed. It was 1:30.
So, yeah, but okay. I mean, back, you know, starting off with me, I went to a spot. Originally, I was going to hunt a different spot. I had spot mapped out. I was focused on, as I said in the previous podcast, I really would like to get a doe that first weekend. And as I'm prepping to talking about where I'm hunting the night before, Friday night before the opening day there, October 5th, and my dad says, why don't you hunt at this other place where I'd gotten a buck 3 years ago, whatever it was.
Vincent.
And and he said, you know, that's doe mania in there.
Yeah.
Why don't you hunt that? That's, you know, usually pretty good for at least seeing them. And I said, you know what? I'm going to go there. You're right. I probably have a higher probability of seeing doe there. I'm going to take a chance on it. So I went there and I walked in and I'm getting close to where the spot is. I have my red lens flashlight on and all I see in front of me
is eyes.
And I just knelt down behind there's a big tree in front of me. I knelt down behind it and I turned my light off. And I'm waiting for these deer to run off, do something, nothing happens. So I'm there, I'm waiting, half hour goes by, and it's now getting light. And the reason why I wasn't in there earlier was because I put my son off at another spot. I walked him in, literally set him up at the tree and walked out, which isn't the best course of action.
Yeah, because stinking it up.
It's not the best thing to do, but he didn't have any chance to do anything. So I was doing everything for him. Anyway, come back to where I was at. It gets light. And I'm now saying to myself, I'm looking around. Where can I had knocked an arrow, have my release on, and I'm on my knees. And I'm sitting there saying, man, this is wearing me out. My back's not the best shape. And I look up and there's a doe staring at me and we both kind of jumped. But she didn't run. I think that's something you can only get away with on first day.
Yeah.
But so anyway, I'm like, okay, I'm going to let her go. If she walks past me here, I might be able to get a shot on her. But I couldn't because then right behind her is a fawn. And then there's another fawn. And then there's two more. So there's a total of 5 doe or deer. And next thing I know, they're feeding all around me. And to talk about, a lot of people aren't big on the whole camo thing, but I had Osio camo on and I was up against a tree. And I think Osio camo blends really well with trees because it's a tree stand hunting camo. I had, at one point, I had a doe 4 to 5 yards to my right where I'm just looking out of the corner of my eye, watching her feed right next to me. And I have a fawn right out in front of me, 4 to 5 yards. And I'm like, I cannot believe I'm not getting winded.
Yeah.
Of anything. I don't care about seeing me. I'm not moving, but I'm like, they're not smelling me or nothing. Well, eventually, I think one of them got a whiff of me, and they just kind of walked away.
Yeah.
But they went back the way they came, as opposed to continuing to feed along.
Right.
So I think they did. But anyway, it was that was just an awesome experience to have them that close to you.
Yeah.
Feeding, sitting there like that, and for a while it was like 15 minutes of going by all around me and stuff, which was killing my knees.
Oh yeah, that will. Yeah, because you're being perfectly still and all that.
Not moving and just leaning my head against and I got my bow in my hand and release like this, and I'm like, whatever. But anyhow, that was the only deer I saw on the first day. In the evening hunt, then, in both hunts, I had other hunters come in on me.
Yeah.
At that spot where I had the doe, they had worked their way away from me, and they were about 50 yards away from me, and they were still there. And all of a sudden it was tails up and they blasted out of there. And I was like, what the heck was that? And I looked down and there's 2 hunters walking up with crossbows, and they sit down at a tree together. And I didn't know if it was a father-son thing or whatever. But anyway, I'm like, at this point, I waited it out 15 minutes. They're sitting there. I get up, I walked down by them, and I said, hey, can you see my car? You could literally see my car from where they were sitting. And
it's not a big area. Like, it's not enough for more than one hunter.
Yes.
This is a very small, compact area.
Yeah, a very small area. And it's just an inconsiderate thing to me. I think, I would never, if I saw a car in that particular location, there's no way.
No, absolutely. You just keep going. We got all that land,
there's a Boy Scout land camp right down from it. It's just not too much room. And then there's solid sapling cover that you can barely get through.
It's like dog hair. Yeah.
It's dog hair. Yeah.
I mean, it has thinned out some because over the years it gets choked out and all that. But at any rate.
But then the afternoon, then I have an old timer come in with a crossbow where my son and I were hunting, and he split the difference between the two. He started walking directly to my son. My son waved him off, and then he came towards me, and I couldn't see him because there was obstacles between him and I. But then ultimately found out that he was, I heard all this stuff that I thought might be a deer, but it was a hunter. Yeah. So I had a bad day with other hunters, and hunting pressure was not my friend that day.
No. I didn't see anything, that first weekend. I saw a lot of beer. But so, you fast forward after.
We had good food.
We did. We had great meals and stuff. So you fast forward, into that week, heading into the following weekend. And I had a doctor's appointment, and I woke up that morning. I started feeling a little off Thursday night, and I woke up that morning with the flu and couldn't make the doctor's appointment, blah, blah, blah. Never made it to camp. These guys were kind of relaying back to me information. Nobody was seeing anything. And that trend kind of has been going here a little bit.
Now, I had seen a 4-point that evening. I did an evening hunt, and I hunted off of a transition line where between real thick stuff. I mean, that's super thick. You don't even want to think about walking in it.
Yeah.
And open hardwoods, and the transition there had great sign. I kind of did a scout to hunt deal. Did some active scouting. Saw the sign there and set up, and then I had this deer above me for like a half an hour, probably 100 yards above me. I was trying to look with my binos. I saw antlers, and I'm thinking, man, just come down here. Come down. I couldn't tell how big it was. And then when it finally did come down, it was right on the trail that I had sat on, 20-yard shot it would have been, and it was nothing but a 4-point buck. So that didn't pan out for me that weekend.
So then fast forward to the next week, I'm going to go up Thursday night and to camp, and Mike calls me Wednesday that he now has the flu.
I woke up Tuesday night into Wednesday morning. Bad. Out of nowhere, I went to bed feeling fine. I didn't even think about anything. Yeah. And I woke up at 2 a.m. throwing up. And I was like, are you kidding me? By the time the weekend hit, I had lost 8 pounds. I was so bad. It was so bad, terrible. But the frustration though, I said, I am going to the mountains. I'm going hunting. And I had taken 2 days off, that Thursday and Friday. I was going to go Wednesday night, hunt Thursday and Friday. I lost all that time. Really ticked me off. And then I go up and hunt. And I'm saying, I'm not going to walk that far because, being sick and stuff. I go 500 yards. I get to the tree where I want to hunt. And I just got down on my knees in front of the tree and basically just sucked ass. I was whooped, losing that weight and then going out there like that.
Yeah.
I was, and this to give you an idea how bad I was. I didn't freaking charge my headlamp. I forgot. And so my headlamp dies when I'm at the base of the tree. And the only reason I was able to climb that tree and get set up was because the moon was really out.
Yeah.
It was beautiful, beautiful morning, really.
So that Thursday is when I went up to where my camera's set up, where Mark got the doe. Oh, enough time had passed 2 weeks now, so I was like, all right, I'll go back up in there. And right at first light, not far from me, probably like 15 yards at one point, had a little 4-point feed across, and I had that 4-point on camera at one point. So he fed across, and then nothing the rest of the morning. And it's been pretty dry for me since I did go to one of my favorite spots we call Mossy Oak. I had 5 turkey feet up right by me, took video of them and stuff. With my cell phone, it's a little grainy, not great, but so I had that, and then finally, like this weekend, I actually got to see some deer. I had a mother and 2 real tiny fawns. I mean, they're probably still on the udder, that's how little they were. They were tiny. And they actually came in from a way that I wasn't expecting. They came in from behind me. And what was funny about it is the squirrels up there are insane.
Yeah, it's been terrible.
They're very busy creatures. They are very busy. They're always, doing something, but so the doe come in from behind me, but leading up to it, what I heard was not like a normal deer. So I thought it was squirrels behind me. And I thought one was just coming up. And then out of the corner of my eye, I catch a big doe, and I'm like, oh, and I'm waiting for her to pass. I'm thinking I can get up, I'm going to shoot her. And then next thing you know, here comes 2 little babies, and I can't take them. I can't take the mother with 2 little ones that look like they're still in the udder. You know what I mean?
We talk about it all the time.
You take her, you're ultimately killing 3 deer by doing that. So I mean, not to say another doe they wouldn't latch on to it, but you know what I mean.
Yeah. I just we talk about that on here all the time.
Right.
If I see a doe, especially with like a single fawn, whatever, sometimes you think if they're 2 together and they look older, that you might say they'll be okay.
If they're like last year's, then yes, I probably would, but they were just way too young for this. So the one little fawn came, within 5-6 feet of me, like feet. I could see the whites of her eyes. Like she looked at me and she kind of but they were playing. It was so freaking adorable. I loved every minute of it. Now that's the kind of stuff I'm there for. You know what I mean?
Well, I told you,
nature in its best. The freaking little fawns playing and kicking around, and you
gotta love that.
But then the mother winded me and blew me out of the spot there. So,
when I told you I walked up to the tree and I couldn't, I was worn out. My headlamp was out. Well, anyway, I had picked that spot. I had a camera there soaking all season last year. I didn't hunt the spot at all, and I wanted to go back there to kind of scout and hunt the spot, to kind of do an observation sit, really, because there's water there. And right now it is so dry that I'm wanting to hunt near water because it is so dry up there. You can't walk a step without sounding like you're an elephant trudging through the woods right now up there. It's so dry.
And this is where I came up with from watching other hunting shows and reading. And when it's like this dry and you sound like a herd of elephants going through the woods, I think it's kind of smart to maybe grunt your way in.
We'll talk about that in a second. So anyway, when I got set up at that spot, I had this camera where it's like a thermal hub. It's a really high point that goes down into this, where the stream comes down off the mountain. And it's actually beautiful. It has all these pines and stuff in there. It is just a beautiful, really scenic spot. And I set up on it. But as I'm walking in, I come across 3 different scrapes. So I'm on a scrape line here, and the last scrape is right where I want to hunt for this observation sit. so I'm saying to myself, I'm going to position, I didn't hunt the tree where I had previously designated it from my camera saying this is the tree I want to hunt. I hunted off the scrape, about 20 yards off the scrape, you know, what I thought was a pretty good angle and stuff. I had a decent tree. But as I'm sitting there around 8 o'clock or just before, I hear this just smoking through the woods. And here comes a freaking doe past me, tail up, just hauling ass. I mean, she's blazing. I'm like, what the heck is that? And I'm looking for where she's at and stuff. And then here she comes back. She went like 200 yards away. And all of a sudden she's coming back by again, flying. I'm like, what the heck? And I spin around, because I'm thinking she's the only one as a dummy. And directly behind me, I have the hillside going up behind me. So I have, at eye level, I have a doe there feeding who was oblivious to me turning around and looking at her. And I come back around and look down, and now I have a doe, another doe 10 yards from me, right down below to my right. And I have a small tree in front of me with all the branches and stuff in front of me. So I'm like, she's a nice doe. And this other doe is still just running around crazy.
Just playing.
Just playing. And the other ones are like, okay, Karen, just, you know, whatever, you know. And they're just like rolling their eyes, whatever.
Like, but this girl's a nitwit.
It's like they're not even paying attention to her. So it's funny. It's funny how, you know, they can just play like that and the other ones don't even, you know, oh, this is just how she is, whatever. Yeah. But so I draw, right? And I'm trying to wait for this doe to kind of give me a shot. So I'm kind of moving with my bow a little bit as the deer's kind of moving around, and she sees me, right? And she does the head bob on me, trying to figure me out. And then she's okay with it, and she moves again, and there's just all these branches in front of me, and it wasn't my primary shooting lane. Of course, the deer always go to exactly opposite of where you want them to, with where my primary shooting lanes were at. But anyways, when they finally did stop, they all kind of worked their way down to the water, and they sat there and drank for a good 5 minutes. And I was able to actually, and just talked about this, you don't have time to pull your rangefinder out. Well, I had time to pull my rangefinder out, and I ranged the deer, and she was 42 yards. And if I had a crossbow, I probably had taken that shot. But I try not to shoot over 30 yards with the eye issues that I have. So, I don't want to wound a deer. But anyway, that was, when talk about things that are neat when you're in the woods and you're like, oh, I'm out here to hunt and kill a doe or kill a buck or whatever. Sometimes you don't care, because that was just so cool.
It's the experience. Yeah. And that's what I mean about that mother with the two little ones, watching them just jump around and kicking and going on. Like, it's great. You know, I said, that's what I'm there for, man. Like, that's the kind of stuff right there that.
Yeah, I didn't see anything on the evening hunt that day, and I actually went to a spot where I thought I was going to have a good chance, but did not. Hunting off what I thought was a buck bedding area that I had scouted quite a bit. But then fast forward to this weekend, I went back to hunt that spot again where I saw those doe, because I'm like, okay, wind's in my favor still once again. Those scrapes are up there. Right here, we're heading into scrape week time frame. You know, maybe a little early on that. But if I hunt off this scrape, there's a good chance I could get the buck that's making that scrape to daylight himself, especially early in the morning. And as I went up in there, working my way up to the spot, I get to that scrape where where my tree is, and the scrape is completely glazed over, leaves on it.
Has not been visited. And I was like, what the heck? Yeah.
All three of them up through there, nothing, dried out, done. So they are not where that deer's primary scraping area is for sure. But with those doe in there, you'd have thought that would have stayed active, but it did not. So I was kind of disappointing.
So for me, up at my camera, there's been a little bit of a turn of events that have changed things up there. And it's one word: coyote. So every morning, go out and getting ready. That's all you could hear up there. And it sounds like 4 or 5 of them, and they're running deer. You can hear them because they're running out towards the power line, and they're coming back, and it's like they are going nuts up there, howling and going on. God, it's
can't even explain it. You'd have
how
to hear
eerie it sounds.
Oh my God, they're that whining, crying sound that they make when they're barking, that real high pitched bark that they have. But I decided then because I didn't see anything that morning at that spot that I had gone back to this weekend. Then yesterday afternoon, I decided, because we had some pretty good winds.
Gale force winds for me. I have video evidence.
The side of the mountain I hunted on, the winds were not bad. In fact, the bugs were terrible when I walked in. But I ended up walking near to the top of the mountain, and then I did an active scout to hunt. Not a spot and stalk, but an actual scouting for hot sign. And I went probably, I don't know, mile and a half till I hit hot sign. And what's ironic about it is when I hit the hot sign, I followed a rub line, a really nice rub line, the first I had seen the whole way down through there. And the rub line took me right into where I've had a camera hanging since, since I got it back in August from Exodus Outdoors, one of those Exodus Outdoors rival cameras. And it had died on me. The batteries were dead. So I was able to retrieve that camera, and I hunted out of that spot. But here's what Dan was talking about with grunting your way in. So it's extremely crunchy, right? I said about how loud it is. So I had, the whole way out there, I had really taken my time. I was stopping. I was listening. I was putting my binoculars up, scanning. And, areas where there's just plain open hardwoods, I'm blazing through, because that's not where you're going to find the bucks at. They're going to be in the thick shit. And so I get there to the tree, and I'm saying to myself, well, I just made a racket here at this tree in these leaves. I'm gonna grunt on my grunt tube, and I'm gonna throw a bleat off my bleat can. So I go burp, 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 and I go wah with my can. And I throw a climbing stick on. I get the second one on. I got my third in my hand, and I'm up the tree, and I hear ch-ch-ch-ch-ch-ch. And I turn and look, and I got a spike buck, between 20 and 30 yards, whatever it was. Look right at me, sees me, and bolts. And I was like, are you serious? It responded to the call. And so there is a catch-22 in trying to cover your movement with that.
Me being a ground hunter, it's more, you know what I mean? Geared towards me to maybe.
That's a lesson learned on my part. Don't do that when you're not going to have your bow in your hand. Right? That was dumb. What's
crazy is you on that side of the mountain, and I'm over here on this side of the mountain. And I was over there eating a metric shit ton of fresh air and gale force winds directly into my face.
Amazing how it was different from one side.
It was like a freight train for hours and hours and hours. I was out there for 5 hours, just like practically holding on for dear life. Like
he's texting that the winds are terrible, and I'm like, I might have 2 to 5 mile an hour winds where I'm at right now,
which is crazy. Like literally, you're just on the other side of the valley, on the other mountain there.
So the mountain is blocking the wind, evidently.
That was wild. It was, but I was up pretty high too. So
I was up near the top.
I'll say this. Dad was down real low, but he was on the same mountainside that I was, just maybe 2 miles away from each other. And he was eating air too.
Yep. And Jevin was
on the same side as you.
And he was probably a good mile away from me.
Yeah, they're texting me. They're like, oh man, the wind is really laid down. And I'm sitting there like, holding on for dear life. Like, I'm like, I call bullshit. I was like, maybe you guys are hunting in a different county right now, but you're not hunting where I'm at.
He was literally, we get back after hunting, and he's like, he goes, you guys are lying. It's like, it's not like we're coordinating where we're at here. But then the only thing I saw them was just before, and muzzle loader's in right now too.
Yeah.
In Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
And
it's out now. Or
that was the last day this weekend. So I was like a half hour prior to dark. I had a deer. It's because I couldn't identify it. All I saw was the body. It was a good distance away from me. I put my binos up, but it was too late. It was behind thick cover, and I don't know what it was. But then right at dark, I heard a muzzleloader hunter, what I assumed was him unloading his gun, because it had that long, didn't have a thump. The thump's like he had something, and he was actually down. It sounded like he was down near where I hunted the previous week.
Right.
But anyway, that was our thing. And Jevin saw a huge buck
on his way out in the morning.
Driving.
Yeah. So one Thursday, this Thursday night, me and Dad went out to an area that is, okay, so in Pennsylvania here, archery bear is in. And we went out to an area where it was notorious for bear, actually a couple 100 yards from the spot where I was at Thursday night. I'll say that I had a bear hunt me. I was sitting in a spot, bear, I mean, a big bear, like went 400 pounds easy, came in from behind me and he caught wind of me and he was doing this behind me. And I'm sitting there like literally shitting razor blades because he's behind me. I'm like vulnerable, and I can't see him. I could just hear him. And I know he's like right there. I could hear like sticks cracking behind me. And all of a sudden he come down beside me and was waddling down the mountain, but he was in mountain laurel and I couldn't get up and get a shot. It was too thick, but I had visions that Thursday night of this week here, bear country, man. I had visions of a bear coming in.
What day was it? Our dad actually saw a bear climbing trees and appeared to be eating lanternflies.
That was last week. He said it was like swatting it. He said that thing climbed that tree so quick, got up there. It was like he could see it like clawing at something, went down, went up another tree and did the same thing. But he said it was like 70 plus yards away where this bear, he said it was a smaller one, but man, he said that thing up both them trees. And in where he was hunting, that area, a lot of trees are getting decimated by lanternflies. They get like, they coat them and it has like that black sap looking, coating on the tree that they're killing the tree.
Yeah, but they're not going after oaks and stuff. They're going after those, I think the tree of heaven or whatever it's called.
Yeah.
But those are, what do you call it? What does Trevor call that? Non-native. Invasive
species.
Invasive species, yes. So that's, so it has not been, and Jevin saw a couple doe here and there.
Yeah, I mean, it's really not, it's not on. So
the amount of sign out there, this is what's blowing me away. Like I saw that rub line, right? We've hunted these mountains for a long time. And to have the sign developing kind of the way it is at this point in the season is crazy. Yeah. Last year was like this too. It had a really weird, the rut never really panned out and they had no real rut action whatsoever.
Where the year before it was like rut central.
Yes.
Yeah.
So and you could do calls and deer would come into you and
dad saw that buck and he said it just ignored his grunt. Like it didn't even.
Now Jevin did, he took a shot at what he thought was a doe and it was short. He didn't range it correctly.
Yeah.
And then he said he did a bleak can.
Once it turned and he faced him, it had real little spikes.
Yeah.
Which were hidden by the saplings in his ears,
Yeah, he said the thing that what caught his attention is he used his bleak can as it was going away and it came back to him. And he was like, what? Why is this doe coming back to me on a bleak can?
Yeah.
Right. And he said then that's when he said one antler was like about 3 inches and the other one was like 5 or something.
So here, did anybody look at his bleat can? Is it a doe estrus bleat or is it a fawn bleat?
I have no idea.
Because if it's a fawn bleat, that would make sense that it came back. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He might have the wrong can, not realized.
Yeah. But it was I digress. But it was a spike buck that came back. And they're notorious for really being responsive to calls. I've found over the years, younger ones.
Yeah, yeah. Well, they're dumb.
Yeah.
They're not, seasoned veterans yet.
Yep. So we have, we had originally planned, you probably heard us talk about this on the podcast. We had talked about doing deer tour with our buddy Andy Musser out at his camp this year. And we took vacation, not this upcoming week, which is Halloween's this week, but basically
the first week of November.
Yeah, November 4th through the 8th is the week. Well, our deer tour thing panned out. Andy, if you don't know, Andy's a cancer survivor, and he's going to be he had colon cancer, and he's going to be getting a colonoscopy, and then he has a cancer benefit that he's going to do.
Yep, he's got some stuff going on. Plus, he's got real little kids. He's in that. He needs to be a father, and he needs to be home time.
So that didn't pan out, but we are still going hunting all week. We're going to go up next Sunday.
Yep.
And we're going to be hunting the whole week. So we're going to get a solid 6 days of hunting in.
Yeah.
And we're ready to go. We're taking our e-bikes. We're going to do some, going back to some of these spots that we scouted years ago and do some active scouting and find that hot sign. And one thing I said to myself as I was walking out yesterday, and I said, I'm glad I'm doing this scout to hunt thing, is because I had said over and over again, I want to do 80% scouting, 20% hunting.
Yeah.
And I had scouted out that spot where I saw the 4-point.
Yep.
Right? The active scouting, the hot sign works. It happened, that 4-point, it happened. Even though I had that spike buck come into me on camera, my camera there at that spot had an 8-point there at that spot. I'm pretty sure it's the 8-point. That's, if you saw these trees, you definitely wouldn't think of spike bucks doing it.
Yeah.
And because they're high up and they're really tore up.
Yeah.
But, so I just think that that 8-point was too savvy that day, or he was bedding somewhere else.
Yeah.
So anyway,
so what night was that? Friday night, was it? Yeah, Friday night is when I got to use I went out, way out, there's this, we call it the double power line. It's massive power line. I went on my e-bike way out there, and that's when I had the doe and the 2 little ones.
You basically scouted yourself into that spot.
I did. And here's what's crazy about this spot. So I was out there years and years and years ago with my dad rifle hunting as a kid. And on the power line, there's this giant boulder, right? And I remember as a kid, me and Dad getting up on that rock and watching the power line. And I went like this and touched him like that. Went like, hey, Dad. And it shocked the heck out of him because we're right under power line and you can hear them like static sound from the power lines. So we call it shock rock. So I walked out, scouting the area around. I walked out onto the power line and I looked down and I saw that rock and all these memories come rushing back. It was a really cool moment. But I get back over, so for like 500 yards, if not more, what they did is they cleared. Okay, so you're at the top of the mountain and it goes down over. They cleared, not trees, all the mountain laurel out to a certain point, and then it was like a line where the mountain laurel went down over. So what I did was like utilized, okay, that's a transition for if they come up out of the mountain laurel, plus the power line. That's a different topography, or not topography, transition over there. So I kind of got set up in a 3-way transition spot, and it was pretty neat. So it was like really open over to my left, but in front of me, I had the beginning of the mountain laurel. Over to the right, I had all the real thick brush that sits on the power line. And you should have seen the hoof.
I'm still wondering if they're going to turn that. Maybe they're going to log there. They're going to stage vehicles there or something. I mean, clear that out for a parking lot or something.
They might have got rid of all the laurel to do logging to make it easier, but it was just bizarre. It was like, I'm looking around. I'm like, there's no stumps. There's no trees laying. I'm like, did they just take all the mountain laurel out of here? What the hell's going on here?
That's weird.
It was weird. But I'll tell you what.
Being right off the power line, you got to think that they're planning on doing something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it was all probably prep work leading into.
Yeah. I'm glad that they shut down the logging stuff and they just have the trees marked right now because of hunting season, because I'm able to still hunt the spots that I want to hunt. And like I said, and be able to scout into these spots and not waste my time on spots that just to hunt. I always say all the time, hunt the sign, not the spot. So don't just go to a spot because you traditionally hunted the spot. Go to an area. If you don't see sign, start scouting, find the sign and hunt the hot sign. And truly hot sign is tough to find. I was lucky because these rubs that I found in this rub line had the shavings on the ground, everything. So that's super fresh. And who knows, that deer I saw off in the distance could have been that 8-point buck. We have no idea because there's doe in there as well in that area. But
I'm really looking forward to the week-long hunt and really kind of diving in. Me and you just getting way out. And traditionally, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday up there, nobody's up there.
I love that.
Like Thursday, Friday, Saturday,
more people show up.
More people show up there.
Mondays and Tuesdays are awesome for not having any other hunters in that area.
Yeah.
Though I keep saying to myself this, when I went out there and I did that scout the hunt, I said to myself, when I went to that area, one of the things that I keep trying to say to myself that I think is extremely important with all the different hunters we see in that area is I need to hunt where the hunters are not. If I keep going back to an area where other hunters have been, all I'm doing is set myself up for failure.
Absolutely.
I need to go, even if it's offset of where other hunters have been, a couple 100 yards, keep paying attention to these deer studies and say, these deer, this is their home range. This is where they live. They're not going far. They're just going away from the pressure.
Yeah.
And if you can take advantage of hunting pressure, that's what you should do. Yeah. And that's what I was telling myself that yesterday. I said, I need to get up here high in the mountain where other people aren't willing to walk.
Yeah.
And I'm going to go out here and I'm going to find the hot sign and I'm going to set up on it.
Yep.
And that's what I did. And I saw deer, but not the deer I wanted to. But anyway, it's if you can go do that, basically wing it, even though I ended up in a spot that I had pre-scouted before. When I was walking, I didn't have my app out scouting into it. I was just actively looking for sign and just ironically hit the spot. But when you can set up on sign that you just looked at like you did and you see deer, that's a win.
I think right now we're in that, again, we'll repeat this again for the 100th time. We're in a low deer density area and we're in the dog days of archery where you're in that weird kind of rut where it just really isn't happening yet. The animals aren't moving. The hunting pressure kind of spooked a lot out right now. You got up behind camp, you got coyotes running deer, you got, there's a lot kind of going into play. And I actually said earlier
this is a tough place to hunt.
It's a tough place to hunt. And it's like, man, I wish we hunted a higher deer density area, but next week, when I do kill a deer, the accomplishment of it because of this is going to be so much greater.
Yeah, and I'm going to appreciate this all the time.
I do, and I'm going to appreciate it. I'm a little discouraged right now. I'm not going to lie. You said all them hours. I got 10 plus hunts in, 12 hunts in, and
I got 4. Or I'm lying. I have 8 because I had 4 days, but 8 hunts.
I got like 12 hunts in, and I've seen 4 deer total. I've seen more turkey than I have deer, and that's discouraging. But it's okay. I know at a certain point, and probably the week that we're up there, it really starts to turn on. Deer moving for different reasons, not because of hunting pressure.
I keep hoping for freaking weather to change. This warm weather. I mean, it's crazy because you go out in the morning.
It's cold.
And you're cold. It's down in the 30s there. And then all of a sudden
it's in the 70s in the evening. You're sitting there eating bugs.
Yeah.
They're in your eyes. They
were tearing me up when I was walking out and doing that scouting. I was literally getting torn. I went in and took a shower last night and I'm laying in bed feeling like I still had bugs in my eyes. I was in the shower with my eyes open in the water trying to drain the bug guts out of my eyes. It was that bad.
I always have eye drops.
Yeah, I do have some. But anyway, we apologize for not having the podcast sooner, but life gets in the way. And that's the one thing about being, even a YouTube creator or any content creator. When hunting season's here, I'm hunting.
Yeah,
my focus is on hunting. It's not necessarily on content creation. So,
me and him are always talking about, hey, we could try and get the podcast in. We could try. Well, I got wife's doing this. I got this. We're always
schedules don't always line up, especially when you're both sick, offsetting.
Offset weeks.
And I had to travel for work then. So,
I just had the flu. I wasn't coming over here with you getting off the flu. Going, what if that was a different strand, whatever you want to call it. And then getting sick 2 weeks in a row. It's just, But.
All right. Before we finish this up, Dan, any gear updates? Anything working well? Things you changed or things that you're real happy with at this point?
I'm real happy with the Tidewee boots. So he got hooked up with Tidewee, got me a pair of their 6mm boots.
Neoprene boots.
Neoprene boots. They are awesome. Yeah. They're real light. They're warm as hell for 6mm. And
rubber boots,
rubber knee highs. They are like walking on pillows. They're freaking awesome. I love them.
I haven't worn them yet. My son has. I got a pair of 11s for my son. I got a pair of 11s for him. I have small feet. I wear like 9s, but I'm anxious to actually eventually at some point get my feet in a pair of them because you even tried the ones upstairs for my son. You said they were real comfortable too.
Yep, they're real comfortable. And then the Tidewee.
Blind.
The see-through 270-degree see-through blind. I got that set up, a little bit of brush put on it. It made it through the wind event.
Yeah.
So I was pretty impressed with that. It's real good, sturdy material. Really looking forward to getting some time in that. That's kind of, I'm hoping during this week long that we get a little bit of a rain day to go up there and sit. You know, I love sitting in a blind in the rain.
Yeah, and it's kind of out of nowhere. I got contacted by Summit Outdoors, and they're going to send me a ghost blind, it's called. If you've ever heard of this.
It's like a mirror.
It's like a mirror. It reflects the terrain in front. So whatever terrain you're hunting in, it looks like that terrain. That's the concept anyway.
You got to like lean it forward a little bit so you're not getting any of the sky in there. It's just reflecting the ground back on it. So it kind of just looks like all the leaves keep continuing. You know,
yeah.
Pretty cool.
So I'm anxious to give it a shot. Why not? You know, I said, you know, I'll try anything once, but I'm probably only going to use it once, and then I'll hand it off to Dan to try out and stuff, and maybe my
being the avid ground
hunter. Yes.
Yeah. No, I'll use the heck out of it. Yeah.
Yeah. So we get a good test out of that.
Yeah. Yeah.
We like to give honest reviews. We don't like to do any BS. The reviews you don't see are the things that we don't like.
And I will say this. So I was wearing when the doe.
I'm actually getting ready. I'm hoping it's cold enough. I have that Numa Core heated vest against the skin vest. I have not gotten to test that yet. I want to test that. Our dad, I got him a Tidewee heated vest for Christmas last year, and he freaking loves that thing. Yeah. I had never worn heated stuff ever, and now I'm like.
So what's the name of the stuff the base layer stuff that I have that takes your signature away? Hex.
There you go.
It's a story. That was not good for TV or listening to a podcast.
I'll cut that dead space out.
Okay, so the Hex gear, I was wearing that.
Hex, H-E-C-C-S.
H-E-C-S.
We talked about that on a previous gear.
I was wearing that Hex gear when the doe and the that fawn that came within 5 feet of me and was like looking at me. I was wearing the Hex gear. So, okay, that's like 2 or 3 situations now where I had deer very, very close to me. I think the Hex works. Put a Hex on.
Yeah. I got to test that.
It was either that or it was just because it was like a very, very baby deer and they're real dumb. But the mother walked right by me, like never even, you know, that was pretty cool.
Yeah, I had some companies like Numa sent me some stuff and everything that I can only test if it gets colder. Right now, it's been too warm.
Yeah.
It's been too warm. I want some cold weather, not just for that, for deer movement. But anyway, guys, I think let's put together the first 3+ weeks of hunting that we've done and with things that we've experienced. And you see where we got a long way to go and hoping that things start developing. It was disappointing on the scrape front, you know, to not really see. I've seen just a handful of scrapes out there. When I was first, before the season started, if you remember, I saw scrapes in September.
Yeah.
And I was expecting things to like really kick off, and it just kind of flatlined.
I think it was like a little bit of a false negative, or false positive that we were like, oh man, rut's going to be early this year. I don't think so now.
I don't think so now either. So,
but it is what it is.
Yep.
This is hunting.
Yep. So there you go, guys. Putting a bow on it. Episode 29, and I hope to see you next time.
Thanks.
Hey, this is Mike once again. I hope you enjoyed the podcast. If you want even more content from the Everyday Bow Hunter, I invite you to go over to everydaybowhunter.com or archeryhunting.com. It's the same website for the Everyday Bow Hunter. In addition, if you haven't subscribed, go to our YouTube channel. We have a lot more than the podcast there. Have more video coming every day, a lot more content. In addition, if you go over on your podcast channels, or you're already there, whether it's Spotify, Apple Podcasts, whatever, please give us a 5-star review. Give us a follow. We really appreciate it. In addition, if you see an Everyday Bow Hunter shirt like this, go ahead, go to the website, go to YouTube, click on it, buy one of our shirts. Every little bit helps. We're not sponsored by anybody. In addition, in our descriptions and our show notes, we highlight products that we use and buy that we love. Now, every time you click on one of those links, we get a small commission. It really helps us out. Like I said, we're not sponsored by anyone. You're our sponsor. So with your support, we can make this channel even better. I appreciate it. And until then, I will see you next time.